Alright, let's get going. So first we've got to put the lug nuts into the hubs. Now I've already encountered a problem. So the hubs that I have, we've got two different PCDs, but I believe what they are is 5x120 and 5x4.75 inch, which the 5x120 is a Commodore pattern and the 4.75 inch is the Chev/H series pattern. Now being that I've got the Visa diff that I'm putting in, I would like front and back to be the same, so I want to go with the Commodore pattern. But they're so bloody close and the instructions don't say which one the dot is, that now I've got to try and figure out which one's the Commodore pattern and which one's the Chev pattern. So what I've done is I've put two studs in, got my calipers, and I'm just going to try and measure from the center point to see which is which. Difference is like 0.65 mil, so we'll see if I'm even able to tell, but we're going to try. Just under 95. And if I were to shift this over here, there's more space there. So that tells me the larger one's the Chev pattern, so that's the larger one, and that's the smaller one. So that's the Commodore pattern, which is the dotted one. Okay, so we're putting our bolts in the dotted holes. There you go. So the instructions just say install wheel studs, torque to 77 foot-pound, which I've got to work out what that is in Newton meters because my torque wrench is in Newton meters. Good old Chinese one, I think. I don't know, it was cheap. So yeah, let's get going. Alright, so I've installed all my wheel studs. Now I was just trying to figure out how to torque them, but it was a bit difficult. So best way I found was to chuck it in the vise, got a towel around it so not to damage the actual hub. And I've worked out 77 foot-pounds is about 104, 105 Newton meters. So I've just set that on my torque wrench and I'm ready to blast away. So the next step is to pack our inner bearings. So there's many different ways to do this. Best ways I've seen it done without a bearing packer is you just grab your bearing and you want some high temp wheel bearing grease. And what you want to do, you want to grab a big dot and just put it on the palm of your hand like that. And you want to grab your bearing and squish it in that sort of motion, and you just want to keep going back, moving it around, and the point is for the grease to eventually come out of both sides. Actually, you want to do it on this side. Grab some more grease. The more the merrier. You can see I'm getting grease oozing out the other side now. So that is a packed bearing. Now I'm just going to get grease on the outer rollers. And then drop her in. Then you rinse and repeat. we've just installed the bearings. Now we want to get the bearing seal and hammer it flush. Alright, all good. That one got a little bit mangled, but I think it'll be okay. Alright, so next we've got to attach this adapter plate to the rotor, going, I believe, this way, with these bolts and some red Loctite. These get torqued to 25 foot-pound or 34 Newton meters. So yeah, we'll get going on that. So yeah, once again I've had to come up with a creative way of being able to torque these bolts. So I just chucked the disc in the vise and should be pretty easy to get 34 Newton meters like this without damaging the disc or anything. That's why I got a towel there. And the instructions say to do it in an alternating pattern, so just going to go opposites. My torque's bit broke on me when I was torquing up the second last bolt. Just interesting. I just bought this kit from Super Cheap. Yeah, one of the teeth just went. That's a bit disappointing. I mean, but what do you expect? Cheap Chinese stuff. Anyway, got a spare one luckily. Torque it up. So now that we've torqued up our discs to the adapters, we have to attach the hubs to the discs in this orientation. So I'm just going to put my hub down like that, put the disc over the top, and we're going to use these bolts with red Loctite, and they're going to be torqued to 55 foot-pounds. Let's get to it. Same thing as before, got the disc in the vise with the towel, torquing these to 55 foot-pounds, or in normal units 75 Newton meters. Oh, that's lovely. Don't use cheap stuff. Great. Right, so it's the next day now. I basically had to give up because that Tool Pro Torx, that T45 Torx bit broke on me while I was trying to torque them up. And I didn't think I had another T45 Torx bit, but it just so happened that I had this laying around. Gave it a go with this one, and what do you know, that one snapped into two bits right there. So yeah, that's a craft right set there. So cheap stuff can't handle 75 Newton meters of torque. The more you know. So I just went to Bunnings today, bought this King Chrome set, managed to torque them all up. So the discs are now connected to the hubs, all torqued up with red Loctite. Now we're going to move on and put the brackets on the stud axles for the actual calipers. Alright, so I've just fitted up the disc onto the stub axle. All you do is you slip it on and then you use the OEM washer that was in your old disc brakes and you slip that in and then put your castle nut on. I missed that in the instructions. I thought Castlemaine had to send me one, but you just use the OEM one there. And I've got the bearing preload already set, so it spins nice and free. And it's not, loose enough that it's going to wobble or anything. Now there's no torque setting for these nuts. What it is you want to go, tighten it until it gets tight and then back it off half a turn. That's literally what it says in the manual for this. So, and you can test it out. It should spin pretty freely, but not have any play in it like that. Now, all I've got to do is add the split pin in here, and then I can just put my dust cap on, and that's it. Make sure you got nice amount of bearing grease in there. And yeah, before you do this though, remember I had to, before you put the caliper on, just remember that you need to torque everything up, especially these upper and lower ball joints. I'd forgotten to, and also having this steering arm on just makes it impossible to torque that lower one, so I had to undo these, torque the upper and lower to 70 foot-pounds, then I put the steering arm back on, and then those are torqued to I think 55 foot-pounds. And yeah, so but all the other stuff I still need to torque down. It's just you can't really get to those later, so you should do it now. And I've got the assembled caliper to the caliper bracket, and I've already done my test fitting. So basically in the instruction it tells you that they supply you with these washers here, these bronze washers, and they sort of act like spacers to get your center alignment of your caliper to your disc. So you want to space it out with 2 first and then see how you go. Got a bit of a weird one. So mine, I don't need any spacers here, but when I actually attach the bracket onto the stub axle, you have these washers that go there, but I actually needed another spacer here to get it nice and centered, which is not in the instructions, but that's just how it worked, and that's just how it is. And I can show you on this side that I've already put it all together. I haven't torqued it up yet though, but yeah, you can see I've got no spacers here, and then I've just got the regular spacer there, and you can see it's nice and centered. The discs are even on each side, and then the way you can really tell is by the gap. You can't really see there. There's a gap here and here, and that will tell you. Also, just give it a spin, and if it spins nice and freely, then you're on the money. So yeah, I'm not going to torque down the caliper bolts yet though, because I'm not going to leave them on there permanently, because I have
14-inch steelies right now, and I want to make this a rolling chassis so that I can move it around a bit and get some more space when I need it and do what I can. So yeah, until I get the proper wheels, I'm not going to have the calipers on the front yet. So yeah. So just to show you guys what I'm talking about, I've left the spacers out, and you can see that gap on this side compared to the gap on this side. This gap is much larger, and when I spin, you can just barely hear that one of the pads is touching. So, and I'm bottomed out. I can't go any further this way. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a tiny washer in there. These ones here. These were the ones that you're supposed to put in there, but I've just drilled out the hole bigger so that it fits in here, and that will shift the caliper more this way so that the gap is more even, and I'll show you guys the after result. So now I've added those washers in, and you can see this gap here and this gap here. Let me try and get it to look a bit better. Is a lot more even. And now when I spin, there's no noise. And that's the way it should be. Beautiful. And once everything is centered and all good, you can torque down these bolts. So these caliper bolts here are torqued to 40 foot-pounds, and this upper bolt on the bracket is 120, and that lower bolt there is 77. And yeah, then you can also add in your brake pads. So there's just a screw here that you undo, these pins slide out, put in your brake pads, put the pin in, put the screw back in, and yeah, that's it. That's a completed Wilwood front disc brake conversion on a HZ 1-tonner. So yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. Thanks everyone for watching. Please be sure to like, comment and subscribe. See you in the next video where we put on the rear suspension and turn this thing into a rolling chassis. Exciting times ahead.